Let me begin with a simple truth. Your life does not change by accident. It changes by design. And the design of your life is written, not in your dreams or intentions, but in your daily habits. Big success is never the result of one giant decision. It is the quiet accumulation of small disciplines practiced every day. If you want your life to look different a year from now, then something you do daily must change today. The first small habit that will change your life forever is learning to take full responsibility for where you are and where you are going. This habit may sound simple, even obvious, but it is one of the rarest disciplines practiced by human beings. Most people spend their lives explaining instead of improving, blaming instead of building, and justifying instead of growing. The moment you accept responsibility, your life begins to shift because responsibility is the birthplace of power. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself harshly or living with regret. It means understanding a fundamental truth. Your current results are the outcome of your past choices. Not your parents, not the economy, not your friends, not luck. When you understand this, you stop waiting for life to change and start changing your approach to life. As long as you believe someone else controls your future, you will remain dependent. But the day you accept that your decisions shape your destiny, you become free. Many people say, if things were different, I'd be different. But successful people reverse that thinking. They say, if I become different, things will change. That shift in mindset changes everything. When you take responsibility, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do better? One question makes you a victim. The other makes you a leader of your own life. This habit begins with honesty. You must be willing to look at your results without excuses. If your health is poor, it's not because of bad luck, it's because of habits. If your finances are tight, it's not because the world is unfair, it's because of patterns. This truth may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is also empowering. Because if your habits created your problems, your habits can also create your solutions. Taking responsibility means understanding that discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. It is far easier to do small daily disciplines than to live with the pain of knowing you could have done more. Responsibility encourages you to act early, before problems grow heavy. It trains you to handle life while it is light, instead of waiting until it becomes overwhelming. This habit also sharpens your self-respect. When you stop blaming others, you stop weakening yourself. Every excuse you make is a vote against your potential. Every time you say, it's not my fault, you give away your ability to change the outcome. But every time you say, I can do better, you strengthen your confidence. Responsibility builds pride, the healthy kind that comes from knowing you are doing your best. Another powerful aspect of responsibility is that it improves decision-making. When you know you are accountable for the outcome, you think more carefully about your choices. You become intentional instead of reactive. You stop drifting and start directing. Life stops happening to you and starts responding to you. That is a major turning point in personal growth. Responsibility also changes how you handle failure. Instead of quitting or complaining, you evaluate. You ask, what did this experience teach me? Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. When you own your mistakes, you extract value from them. People who refuse responsibility repeat the same errors year after year. People who accept it grow wiser with every setback. This habit must be practiced daily. It shows up in small moments: getting up on time, keeping promises, managing emotions, choosing effort over excuses. You don't wait for a big opportunity to practice responsibility. You practice it in the ordinary. And as you master the ordinary, the extraordinary becomes available. When you truly adopt this habit, you no longer need motivation from the outside. Responsibility becomes your internal engine. You act because you know your future depends on it. You don't need someone to push you when you understand that no one is coming to rescue you. And that's not bad news, that's great news. Because when you accept responsibility, you realize something powerful. If your life isn't working, you can redesign it. If your results aren't improving, you can change your approach. And if your future doesn't look the way you want, you can start shaping it today. That one small habit, taking responsibility, quietly transforms everything it touches. And once it becomes part of who you are, your life will never be the same. The second small habit that can change your life forever is the discipline of setting aside time each day to think. Not worrying, not reacting, not scrolling or distracting yourself, but thinking. Serious, deliberate thought is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop, and yet it is one of the least practiced. Most people are busy, but very few are effective, because activity without thought leads to exhaustion, not progress. Life does not reward motion, it rewards direction. And direction is discovered through thinking. When you fail to think, you allow life to push you instead of you guiding it. You live in reaction mode, responding to problems, opinions, emergencies, and moods. But when you develop the habit of daily thinking, you step back and begin to lead your own life. You stop being managed by circumstances and start managing your decisions. Thinking time does not require hours. 10 or 15 quiet minutes a day can radically improve the quality of your choices. The power is not in the length of time, but in the consistency. Small moments of reflection, practiced daily, sharpen judgment and prevent costly mistakes. A few minutes of thinking can save you years of struggle. During this time, you ask better questions. Questions like, what am I working on that truly matters? Where am I wasting energy? What habits are helping me? And which ones are hurting me? What should I continue and what should I stop? Life improves when your questions improve. Poor questions create confusion. Good questions create clarity. Thinking also turns experience into wisdom. Many people go through life accumulating years, but not insight. They repeat the same mistakes with different faces and different settings. Thinking allows you to extract lessons from both success and failure. Instead of simply moving on, you pause long enough to learn. And once a lesson is learned, it no longer needs to be repeated. This habit also strengthens emotional control. When you think before you react, you gain leverage over your impulses. You stop saying things you later regret. You stop making decisions driven by anger, fear, or excitement. Thought creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies self-mastery. The ability to pause and think is often the difference between long-term success and short-term relief. Daily thinking time also improves focus. When your mind is cluttered, everything feels urgent. When your thinking is clear, priorities emerge. You begin to see what deserves your attention and what does not. This reduces stress, because stress often comes from trying to do everything instead of doing the right things. Clear thinking simplifies life. Another benefit of this habit is creativity. New ideas rarely appear in a rushed, noisy mind. They emerge in moments of quiet consideration. When you allow yourself time to think, you give your mind permission to connect ideas, see opportunities, and imagine better ways. Progress is often not about working harder, but about thinking smarter. This habit requires intention, because the world will not give you time to think. You must take it. There will always be messages, demands, and distractions competing for your attention. If you do not schedule thinking time, it will disappear. But when you protect it, it becomes one of the most valuable appointments of your day. Thinking also builds confidence. When you have reflected on your decisions, you act with more certainty. Doubt decreases because you know you have considered your options. You may not always be right, but you are rarely careless. Confidence is not arrogance. It is trust in your judgment, and that trust is built through thoughtful evaluation. This small habit changes how you see the future. Instead of hoping things will work out, you begin planning how to make them work. You anticipate challenges instead of being surprised by them. You prepare instead of panic. Thinking shifts you from survival mode into growth mode. At first, thinking may feel uncomfortable. Silence exposes truths you may have been avoiding. But that discomfort is temporary, and the clarity that follows is worth it. Growth always requires facing reality, and thinking is how you do it constructively. When daily thinking becomes a habit, life slows down just enough for you to steer it. You become less reactive, more deliberate, and far more effective. And over time, this quiet discipline compounds into wiser decisions, better results, and a life guided by intention rather than accident. The third small habit that can change your life forever is feeding your mind something valuable every single day. Your life is largely a reflection of what you consistently think about, and what you think about is shaped by what you allow into your mind. The mind does not stay empty, it is always absorbing something. The question is not whether you are being influenced, but by what. Every day, your mind is exposed to conversations, media, opinions, and experiences. If you leave this process to chance, your thinking will be shaped by negativity, distraction, and short-term noise. But when you intentionally feed your mind ideas that educate, challenge, and inspire you, you begin to change the quality of your inner world. And when the inner world changes, the outer world follows. Feeding your mind does not require massive effort. A few pages of a meaningful book, a short lesson, a powerful idea written down and reviewed. These small inputs accumulate. Just as the body responds to daily nutrition, the mind responds to daily information. Poor mental input leads to weak thinking. Strong mental input leads to clear vision and confident action. One of the great dangers in life is mental starvation disguised as entertainment. Many people consume content all day, but grow very little, because most of what they consume does not build character or competence. It distracts, numbs, and fills time without adding value. When you replace even a small portion of that consumption with something constructive, your thinking begins to elevate. This habit trains you to become a lifelong learner. The moment you stop learning, you stop growing. The world does not reward what you know, it rewards what you can do with what you know. Daily learning sharpens skills, expands perspective, and prepares you for opportunities you cannot yet see. Success often comes disguised as a chance you are ready for, because you prepared quietly in advance. Feeding your mind also strengthens your self-talk. The ideas you absorb become the language you use internally. If you fill your mind with limitation, fear, and doubt, your internal dialogue will reflect that. But when you fill your mind with principles, solutions, and possibility, your inner voice becomes more constructive. You begin encouraging yourself instead of sabotaging yourself. This habit also protects you from discouragement. Life will test you. Setbacks are unavoidable. When your mind is weak, challenges feel heavier. When your mind is strong, challenges become manageable. Daily mental nourishment builds resilience. It reminds you that problems are temporary, skills can be learned, and effort pays off. You don't panic as easily because you have perspective. Another powerful benefit of feeding your mind is improved decision-making. Better input produces better judgment. When you understand principles instead of reacting to emotions, you choose wisely. You begin to recognize patterns. You avoid obvious mistakes not because you are lucky, but because you are informed. Wisdom is simply applied knowledge, and knowledge grows with consistent input. This habit also shapes ambition. Exposure to higher ideas raises your standards. You begin to see what is possible, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. You stop settling for less, not out of dissatisfaction, but out of awareness. Growth begins the moment your vision outgrows your current behavior. Feeding your mind requires discipline, because it competes with convenience. The easiest content is rarely the most valuable. But the effort is small compared to the reward. 15 minutes a day of intentional learning can reshape your thinking in ways that hours of mindless consumption never will. You must also be selective. Not all information is equal. Choose sources that emphasize responsibility, growth, skill, and character. Seek ideas that challenge you to think deeper, not just feel better. Comforting ideas may soothe you temporarily, but constructive ideas change you permanently. Over time, this habit compounds quietly. You don't notice dramatic change in a week, but after months, your conversations improve. Your confidence grows. Your ability to solve problems increases. People begin to notice that you think differently. Opportunities come your way not because you chased them, but because you became someone capable of handling them. When you commit to feeding your mind daily, you take control of your influence. You decide who shapes your thinking. And as your thinking improves, so does your direction, your discipline, and your destiny. The fourth small habit that can change your life forever is the practice of doing small acts of discipline, even when you don't feel like it. This habit is the quiet backbone of all progress. It doesn't rely on enthusiasm, excitement, or perfect conditions. It relies on decision. And decision, practiced daily, is what separates those who make steady progress from those who live in cycles of intention and regret. Most people wait for motivation before they act. They wait to feel inspired, confident, or ready. But feelings are unreliable partners. They change with the weather, with sleep, with circumstances. Discipline, on the other hand, is a commitment that does not negotiate with moods. It says, "This matters, so I will do it, regardless of how I feel today." Small disciplines may not seem impressive. Waking up on time, reading a few pages, making one important phone call, saving a small amount of money, taking a short walk. These actions don't look heroic. They don't attract applause. But compounded over time, they create extraordinary results. Success is rarely built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary ones repeated faithfully. The power of small discipline lies in consistency. A little done every day is far more powerful than a lot done once in a while. 1 hour of focused effort each day will outperform 10 hours of scattered effort once a week. Consistency turns effort into momentum, and momentum makes progress easier over time. What once felt difficult becomes routine, and what becomes routine no longer requires force. This habit also builds self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, you strengthen your confidence. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken it. Discipline is not just about results, it is about identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. And when you believe that about yourself, your standards rise naturally. Doing small acts of discipline trains you to handle bigger responsibilities. Life rewards those who can manage the small things. If you cannot manage your time, your energy, or your habits, larger opportunities become burdens rather than blessings. Discipline prepares you quietly for success so that when opportunity arrives, you are ready rather than overwhelmed. This habit also protects you from regret. Regret is often the result of knowing what to do, but failing to do it consistently. Discipline removes that internal conflict. You may not always succeed, but you know you showed up, you put in the effort. That knowledge brings peace of mind, which is one of life's greatest rewards. Another important aspect of this habit is understanding that discipline is easier than disappointment. The pain of small effort is temporary, but the pain of missed opportunity can last for years. A few minutes of daily discipline can prevent months of frustration. When you recognize this, discipline no longer feels like punishment, it feels like protection. This habit also simplifies decision-making. When something becomes a discipline, you no longer debate it daily. You don't ask yourself whether to do it, you simply do it. This saves mental energy and reduces stress. Decision fatigue disappears when discipline takes over. Your life becomes more organized, more intentional, and less chaotic. At first, discipline feels uncomfortable because it challenges old patterns. Comfort resists change. But discomfort is often the signal that growth is happening. When you push slightly beyond what is easy, you expand your capacity. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes normal, and your comfort zone grows. Small acts of discipline also shape your environment. As your habits improve, your surroundings improve. Your workspace becomes more orderly. Your schedule becomes more productive. Your relationships become more respectful. Discipline in one area often spills into others, creating a ripple effect of improvement. This habit requires patience. Results may not appear immediately, but they are always being built. Discipline is like planting seeds. You don't dig them up every day to see if they're growing. You trust the process, water consistently, and allow time to do its work. When you commit to small daily disciplines, you stop relying on luck and start relying on character. You become someone who acts, not just plans. And over time, this quiet habit reshapes your future, proving that success is not about dramatic effort, but about daily faithfulness to the right actions. The fifth small habit that can change your life forever is learning to watch your words and speak with intention. Words are not just sounds, they are tools. They shape how you see the world, how others see you, and most importantly, how you see yourself. Long before results show up in your life, they usually show up in your language. If you want to change the direction of your life, you must begin by changing the direction of your words. Most people speak on autopilot. They repeat phrases they've heard all their lives without questioning the impact. They say things like, I'm not good at this. This always happens to me, or I'll try. These may sound harmless, but repeated daily, they become beliefs. And beliefs quietly direct behavior. What you say consistently, you start to accept as truth. Speaking with intention means becoming aware of how you describe your circumstances. When you constantly complain, you train your mind to focus on what's wrong. When you speak with purpose, you train your mind to look for solutions. Complaints weaken initiative. Constructive language strengthens it. The situation may be the same, but your power over it changes when your words change. This habit does not mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing language that leads to progress instead of paralysis. Instead of saying, I can't, you say, I'm working on it. Instead of saying, this is impossible, you say, I haven't figured it out yet. These small shifts keep your mind open rather than closed. An open mind finds options, a closed mind finds excuses. Your words also shape your emotional state. Speak with frustration long enough, and you will feel frustrated. Speak with confidence long enough, and confidence begins to grow. Emotions often follow expression. By adjusting your language, you can influence how you feel, even when circumstances are challenging. This gives you emotional leverage instead of emotional exhaustion. Another powerful aspect of watching your words is how it affects relationships. People respond not only to what you say, but how you say it. Encouraging words strengthen trust. Clear words reduce misunderstanding. Thoughtful words create respect. When your speech is intentional, your influence increases. People listen more carefully to someone who speaks with clarity and purpose. This habit also strengthens self-leadership. The most important conversations you have are the ones you have with yourself. If your internal dialogue is harsh, critical, or hopeless, your motivation will suffer. But when your inner language is firm yet encouraging, discipline becomes easier. You don't tear yourself down, you coach yourself forward. Watching your words trains you to pause before reacting. Instead of speaking emotionally, you speak thoughtfully. This pause prevents unnecessary conflict and regret. Many problems are not caused by events, but by words spoken without reflection. Intentional speech preserves energy and protects relationships. This habit also aligns your words with your goals. When your language reflects where you're going instead of where you've been, your actions follow. You begin speaking as a person in progress, not a person stuck. This alignment creates integrity, and integrity builds confidence. You trust yourself more because your words and actions match. Over time, intentional speech changes your environment. Negativity loses its grip. Drama fades, focus increases. People around you may even begin to adjust their language in response to yours. One disciplined voice can influence an entire room. At first, this habit requires effort. You will catch yourself slipping into old phrases. That's normal. The goal is not perfection, but awareness. Each time you correct your language, you strengthen the habit. Each time you choose better words, you reinforce better thinking. Words are seeds. Spoken daily, they take root in the mind and eventually bear fruit in your life. When you learn to speak with intention, you stop rehearsing failure and start rehearsing growth. And as this habit deepens, it quietly reshapes your confidence, your actions, and ultimately your future. Success is not something you chase, it's something you attract by the person you become. Start small. Stay consistent. Be patient with results, but impatient with excuses. Because when you change what you do daily, you change what you earn yearly, and eventually, you change your life forever.